Father lifted me and placed me on the chair inside the closet. My heart rate quickened. He then closed the door and left me there alone in the dark for what seemed like a very long time. What he didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that he set in motion for me a lifelong battle against raging demons that I created from that moment on. Those demons didn't live in the closet as I thought. They lived inside of me. And after several of those times in the closet, they went everywhere with me. Home, play, school. They would rear their ugly heads, seemingly at their whim. Though not as insidious as mine, we all sort of create demons. Something bad happens to us, we feel that we don't have any control, and if it happens often enough, we attribute it to a demon. Each one of our particular maladies and combinations thereof form what I call our personal demons. Eventually, I thought I had a solution to those demons in drug and alcohol. More on that later. Prior to that, in high school, I found that excelling academically was a good strategy. I was what we used to call smart because I got grades good enough to go to a university and get a scholarship. It was a very prestigious university, but you know those demons came back. More accurately, I brought them back for whatever reason. And since they did come back, naturally, I turned to drugs and alcohol in full force. There were other students there just like me, and we were all partying through college. But you see, they didn't have the demons that I had. So I became extreme, so extreme I couldn't keep up with my grades. The school decided to give my scholarship to somebody who truly wanted an education and asked me to leave. My life had deteriorated in the bouts of demon fighting and basically just drifting. I was simply drifting and existing sort of like in a stupor of some kind. But I could be counted on to do well in the test because people had told me that I was smart, right? So I looked around and came up with the idea of taking the test for the Air Force, in which I did well. I did so well, in fact, that at no time at all, I became a non-commissioned officer. That meant that I was responsible for other people in the military. But I really didn't appreciate it though, but the battling with the demons continued. I was doing okay, I guess. I stayed in the Air Force for 9 years or so, and a few things happened here, and some other things happened there, and me and the Air Force had to sever our ties, and anyone who followed my life to that point wouldn't have been surprised by that outcome. And it wasn't that the people around me were bad. It wasn't that the world was doing me an injustice. It was just that those darn demons, they seemed indestructible. In no time at all, I fell in with other people who were similarly lost, just like I was, and imagined finding them in the military. That led to an outcome of me being an ex-military man, as I said. I was very fortunate in receiving an honorable discharge because I got the whole slate of GI benefits after that, and that meant that I could go to college on the government's dime. So what did I do? I went to nursing school and became a registered nurse. Externally, it seemed I was doing well because I was earning a living, but I really wasn't. The demons were still in charge. What did happen though? I became interested in this young lady who was a registered nurse at the same hospital as I. I was all set to lay all my troubles at her feet, but that didn't work quite like I thought. I couldn't get her to go out with me because she said she wanted somebody who would go to church with her. Go to church with her, and if I couldn't do that, then I wasn't the one for her, is how she saw it. The one for her, I thought? Well, you know what I did with that little bit of disappointment, don't you? And of course, I managed that in the same way that you think I would based on what I've said. But what she actually did was get me to remember my childhood. You see, Christ was a big part of my life in my childhood, just like he was a big part of her life right now. And with that, my life changed. I began thinking of things differently. I changed because I started praying, meditating, and actually thinking about my life, where I was going. I stopped drifting, set meaningful goals in my life. came to the realization that those demons were quite destructible after all. And I destroyed them. Not only did I escape them, but as I said, I destroyed them. I saw the young lady as someone who was for my good, really. I saw my mother and father and people who loved me, though they had to discipline me. I even saw Captain Wood, who was one of my supervisors in the Air Force. I saw him as being a human being after all I thought of him. The faces of the people that were important in my life were painted on those demons by mistake. So now I choose how I live my life every day. During all that time I was drifting, all I was doing was hurting myself. And I've told you the story. But that's all changed now. Let me tell you what I mean. Recently I was driving along and suddenly heard a racket going on underneath my car. And some of you know about this already. I had run over a sign announcing construction that I just didn't see. The sign had fallen down and was easily missed by a driver like myself. I called over the guy, the foreman, and showed him what had happened, and he seemed sure that I simply ran into his sign, which wasn't so. Thinking of all the fallout possible from what had just happened, you know one of those demons were itching to come out. But there were no demons anymore. A caveat was that a woman had a camera monitoring her home, and it picked up the whole thing. That validated my claim and probably ruined the construction guy's day. It would have been easy to feel victimized, thereby opening the door for a different kind of demon. But I was determined not to take that route. Part of being demon ruled was taking things personally. Sometimes things just happen. Sometimes we get outcomes that we don't even want. And when these things happen, it occurs that we have to react to them, but we don't always do. It gets awfully complicated when we allow demons to run our lives. For me, though, those days are gone. Now, I have countless stories of overcoming challenges just like this one by me and by others that I know. And I could spend hours upon hours telling you about them, but by now, I think you get the point. Mr. Toastmaster.
Hey, let us start. And I don't want our counter counting my okay so's and everything today. Today is different. Victor, that was an excellent opening. There was drama, there was intrigue. The expressions left me enchanted. This was your second speech of Project 2, wherein you are expected to implement the feedback you received the previous time. And the previous time, the feedback you received was to add more emotions, to bring in that drama. And you got it right from the word go. You are an excellent storyteller. And when you started telling us one story after another, right from your childhood, it was engaging. And you smoothly transitioned from one story to another, one story to another. When you were talking about your childhood, or when you started talking about your time as a nurse, to the time that happened recently, wherein now the demons were not a part of your life anymore. I also love the way you managed your time for the speech. You started talking about the current times and you started moving towards the conclusion right at green card. So that you had ample time to tell what had changed in you. You had ample time to give your message and you did not have to rush into it. I really loved the way the content was managed and the time was utilized. And personally, to tell three stories along with the fourth one, which talks about what you have learned, it's not easy. But the way you managed it in those in that crisp language, in the concise way, not wasting time in petty things, excellently done, something that everybody can learn. I love the way you weaved the demons throughout your story, from one story to another. When you started telling the story, before I started wondering where is the demon over here, you had already explained, you had already shared the demons of that time. And that makes people introspect their current positions. One area where I thought you could have done better was your body language. In the sense, since we are in a virtual setup, all the hand gestures that are done around your waist, they go unnoticed. So if you do all your hand gestures in the upper torso, that is around your chest, they get noticed. For example, the hand gesture you did where I was going when you said that, and you did the hand gesture where I was going, you used the hand just around your chest, not around your waist. And that was immediately, that grabbed the attention and it was noticed. So hand gestures over the top. As to challenge yourself, I really don't know. Maybe you could work on your pace to challenge yourself, maybe bring in more variation. It was wonderful, but since we're talking about challenging, maybe you may want to experiment a bit with pauses and all. But all in all, wonderful speed, excellently done. Just a little bit attention to hand gestures coming towards your chest rather than your waist, and I think you'll be set. Thank you so much.